So, Mr. Street, how are you and the boss of the house, Mrs. Street, doing?
Yeah, we're all well, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, just nicely enjoying a nice spell of retirement and still going, still plodding along. And yeah, no complaints really. Yeah, life's good. Life's good.
Nice to hear, mate. Nice to hear. So, before we get stuck into your rugby story, mate, where was home for you, George, and who lived at home with you as a kid?
Um, Home was Eleanor Street, which is down opposite the library. It was knocked down and we moved on. So I was born in Widnes. One of the few, it doesn't say Whiston on my birth certificate. I was born
Okay,
in Highfield Road Nursing Home in
nice.
1950. And home was Eleanor Street, as I say, with my mum and dad,
Yeah,
who were actually from Runcorn, George and Vera.
right.
And in 1949, my dad got a job in Widnes, and because of transport difficulties, and you're far too young to remember, the transporter bridge, and so they moved to Widnes. My
Right.
brother Mike, he was born in 49 in Runcorn. I like to remind him of that. And I was born in February 50. And then Jean, my sister, came along a couple of years later. So the three of us, three kids and my mum and dad in Eleanor
Yeah,
Street. Yeah.
nice, mate. Nice. In the good days as well, when neighbours were neighbours and didn't have to worry about locking doors or windows and
Well, yeah, people say that, but nobody had anything to pinch, John. I
yeah,
mean, we had nothing, you know, there was nothing to buy and no money to buy it with because it was 5 years after the war and jobs and all that, you know. And I don't
yeah,
remember it, obviously, but I do remember growing up how, you know, one bloke might get a bike at Christmas, which was like, wow, they must be rich, you
yeah,
know. Um,
yeah,
and if you had a rugby ball or a football, you got picked, whether you're any good or not.
yeah.
So, so
Yeah, at least
yeah,
it was your real though if you had the ball.
yeah, you never upset
Nice.
them because they'd
No,
go
that's
in.
it, innit? That's
Yeah, yeah.
it.
So yeah,
So,
it was good.
where did the competitive edge come from, mate? Was that something you were born with, or has that developed as you've grew up?
I think, yeah, I think two things. I think you're born with it, and secondly, uh, my brother Mike, he had a number of mates that I used to kind of play with, play against, bigger than me,
Yeah,
a couple of years older than me, which is massive when you're growing up. You know, it's
it is,
different
mate.
now
Yeah,
if you're 21 and 23, but when you're like 11 and they're 13, yeah, I like to win. I think everyone should like to win, but not at all costs. Uh,
yeah,
I've never gone with it at all costs.
right.
So yeah, I think it was just what you're born with, isn't it? You know, you're
Yeah,
fair-minded, and yeah, it's just something that develops on you. I think. Um, Hard to explain where you get it from, but I think everyone should have a competitive edge, fairly,
yeah,
fairly.
yeah. No, I get that, mate. I get, and to be honest, as long as I've knew you, you're straight down the line. Cheating doesn't wash with you, really, from what
No,
I remember, mate.
no,
Yeah.
no.
So,
I have over the years, it would come to it, I suppose, ask
yeah.
people to come off the field because they didn't like what they were doing. But we'll
Yeah.
come to that, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no, I'll definitely drag it out of you, mate. Don't worry about that. So where did the love of sport come from and what sport as a kid was
um,
you playing, George?
well, um, I don't know. Just you're from Widnes, and it just seemed to be um, all sports we played. I mean, back in the day, it was literally two courts down as the goalposts, and you just got on
Yeah,
with it. And you know, you didn't have any tracksuits or kit or anything. You just played, and it was. And people say this of my era. You know, you used to go out at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the only time you came home was when you were hungry, and then
yeah,
you'd be back out again. It might be football in the morning, rugby in the afternoon, anything you could play, cricket, bit of tennis, and so yeah, it's just something that you had. That's all you had really. No television or until a
yeah,
bit later on, but you had to go out and play, and
yeah,
that's all you could do. no Xboxes, none of this, and and which is
The
which is
better
brilliant.
days, mate, isn't it?
Well, I
Yeah,
think so, yeah. And it never seemed to
yeah.
rain. That's a myth.
You liar.
That's that's a myth that all fogies always miss. But yeah, so it was good. I mean, uh,
Yeah,
my junior school was what was known as the Nash, right?
right.
Widnes Church of England School. It's not there now, but if any old fogies watch this, they'll all have heard of the Nash. It was quite a small, but on the way to West Bank, we went there from the nursery from 3 years of age, really, all of us, and stayed till we were 11. And it was a competitive school with very few people in it. I mean, I didn't play competitive rugby till I got to Fairfield because we didn't have enough lads in the school. I mean, we had a cricket team and we had to have girls playing in the cricket team because there just weren't enough pupils, students. But we played
Okay.
football, we played cricket,
Yeah.
athletics, did everything we could on a cinder field, really, no grass. Occasionally, we went up to Dyking Road up at Alton View. There was a pitch up there, but you just got stuck in, John. It was like
Fair trek that as well, George, isn't it?
yeah,
Fair
we used to
trek
go.
for your
It was
school. Yeah.
yeah. Just walk down there, didn't we? There was no bikes. Well, there were bikes. That's not true, but there were no buses that we could afford to get on. My dad's car, he was working. Generally, didn't see him, as most people were then. We weren't anything special. That's what it was. You had to work, which
Well, just for viewers and listeners, though, George, that's like bottom end of town is where your school was. Virtually the top end of town on the way to Penketh is where you actually having to go to play games, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's a
that's
fair
what
trek.
was on council pitches, and we'd go on a
Yeah,
bus, and it was like a day out almost. When you're 9 or 10,
yeah,
11, getting on the
yeah,
bus, and yeah, it was good. I enjoyed school. Um, it was just meeting people and being part of it. It was a good school. It's a very small school with some good people who helped you through life or to start life on.
a nice outlook that though, isn't it? Because fundamentally that's where your principles start coming to the fore, aren't they, mate?
Oh
In
yeah,
junior
yeah,
school.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There was a teacher called Mr. Settle, Jeff Settle, and again, a number of people a lot of people will have heard him. And a quick story about him, and this is the kind of respect that people had. I was playing at Wigan in the early 70s, and a lad called Alan Forshaw, Abby Forshaw, a good friend of mine, good player as well. He went to the Nash, and we were in the bar at Wigan because he was from Wigan, Mr. Settle. Wasn't involved in rugby, and that's what I was
yeah,
called. Are you having a pint, Mr. Settle? And he kept
yeah,
saying, "It's Jeff, George." But you can't bring yourself to
yeah.
call him that because that's
No,
the
no.
you have for people,
Yeah,
And it
it's
was,
the same with
uh,
Berkey for us, isn't it? Like same
yeah,
situation. Yeah,
yeah, you do, and you think, like I'm in my 20s, and Alan was a year or two old, and are you having a pint, Mr. Settle? And he'd go, "Oh, it's Jeff, George." Terrible, isn't it? But that's what But he was one of my dad was one of me. Uh, what do you call it? Mentors, if you like. He taught me hard
yeah,
work. Really,
yeah.
he had to. He went out to work, up and down the country, uh, working anywhere he could get a job. He was a welder in all the muck and dirt, and if you want anything in life, you got to get out and work it. Then you did. Now it would appear that's not true.
Yeah.
You can
No, you're not far off it, are you? Like, you didn't have a choice then, mate, did you? If
Well, he
you wanted
didn't,
to
and
eat, you had to
I
go and
think
do it. Yeah,
yeah, and we never asked my mum and dad for very much because they didn't have very much.
yeah,
Give us all,
yeah,
they give us all they could, but I think we went on one holiday, and I'm not pleading poverty or anything like that. Far from that,
yeah.
we had a great upbringing, no problems at all. We went for lots of days out, but no one had no one had anything really, did they? And
Oh,
I mean, it was better than pre-war and the war. I mean, God blimey,
yeah,
God, that must have been awful for people. But so yeah, it was nice. It was good, and I
yeah.
was at the Nash and enjoyed it. '61 went to Fairfield,
Right.
and that was the first year. It was like going into the Lilliputians. You know, you were a little lad, and these giants
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
16-year-olds clipping you down the ear. Different. Yeah, where you came from a school where you were, and I'm just using this as a phrase. I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah.
Like you were the cock of the school at 11,
Yeah.
and now you're just nobody. Get out the way, you know. And oh,
Yeah.
it's tough.
Bang back to reality, G. Yeah.
And I'm not that kind of guy, but that's how you
Yeah.
were. That's how everybody was.
No,
You were
it
just
is. Yeah.
you were 11, short pants on, probably. You know,
No, that's it, isn't it? Little fish in a big pond situation, and
absolutely.
he's right
It's
back
absolutely.
the bottom of the
Especially
pecking.
again going back to the Nash. Loads of people my age have heard of the Nash. There were nobody in the school. It was very small school. With probably
Yeah.
50 students in it, or 50, lads.
Yeah, it is small then, isn't it? Yeah.
Very small. It was just so. Anyway, moving on was a massive culture shock for me. Massive culture
Yeah.
shock.
Right.
But
Did sport help with that, George?
sport helped with it. Yeah, I think it does. I
Yeah.
think there's two kinds of people. An academic. If
Yeah.
you're an academic, you can get away with not get, but and if you sport, people recognise you A
Yeah.
as an academic and B as a sport, and so sport certainly helped me to go along.
Mm.
Although probably for the first 2 or 3 months of rugby, I'd never played in a competitive game before, as I've explained earlier. So when the game started, they didn't know my ability. They didn't know what I was any. I didn't know I was any. I don't want to make me sound that I'm good, but I didn't know what I could do because I'd never played in a competitive game.
Never been tested, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. So you wiggle your way in, you find your way in. Didn't have a position, ended up in the backs. But if somebody just said to me, "Oh, what position do you play?" Well, I didn't know.
Stand off.
Touch judge, and so I just that's how it went. And
Yeah.
there were lads obviously bigger than me, better than me, but I got myself a position in the end, and went to, as you said, stand off and enjoyed it. Had some good players, some good times. Yeah, mainly after the second.
It's a bit of a blessing not playing like competitive beforehand.
I know I felt lost because I'd never played competitive rugby before. I was probably like a lot of Widnes lads because I'm a season ticket holder still at Widnes Rugby League.
You, mate, yeah, bless you.
I say to people, imagine if you supported Everton and Widnes Rugby League. Oh, wait a minute, I do. What a burden to carry. But I don't know. I never really looked on it like that, but possibly, because I ended up with the also rans, if you like, for the first few months of the season until perhaps, well, I got myself in the team, which is a good thing, I think, all round. But I suppose I'd never, other than a bit of soccer we played and a bit of cricket, I'd never really figured in a team before. But because
you can train all you want, George, can't you? Until you've got like that defensive line coming at you with the ball in your hand. You don't really know, do you?
No. And I think you make your name on the pitch, either academically or on the pitch. And people say, oh, you either have critics or you have people patting on the back. And I had,
You often never have both, George. It's just one of them things, isn't it?
It's like that. You always have your critics. Whatever you do, you always have your critics. And so, and I just, I loved every second after about the first year at Fairfield because you got to know people, and I was never a bully. But the first year's coming behind us then, aren't they? And they're all the small ones and we're like men.
Yeah.
12-year-old
no,
men.
it is. Yeah, you feel it, don't you? A little bit,
you do. And you feel different. And and it was quite an interesting fact. Our first year at Fairfield, last couple of days, back in the day, you used to take any games in because you were, last day of term, you were doing nothing,
Yeah.
I think it was June. I've got the cutting somewhere. June 1962, our first year. This chemistry teacher blew the lab up. My class were in the lab
Yeah.
Right? And it was horrendous, right? And I can see me running down the stairs of this slab because it was up the first floor. I'd have beaten Usain Bolt and Linford Christie and every other athlete down the stairs. And it was serious. I mean, we were having it, but
Yeah.
lads were badly injured from it, this fire.
All right. Okay. Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, I
No,
weren't laughing at that.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. I know you were laughing at
Yeah.
me running down. I
Yeah.
get that. No.
Yeah.
And classmates of mine, you know, and there was, you can imagine, fire engines and all kinds of things happening, you know. I mean, so
Yeah.
that was my like first year at the school.
You had a nice introduction.
The place blew
So,
up, but you know, that's just,
you know, playing all them sports, George. Does that all contribute to the player you become? Do you think? So you were playing cricket, you were playing football, you were out with mates playing whatever you could play
yeah,
at the
yeah,
time
yeah,
without getting shouted in for your tea.
yeah.
So is it? Do you
I
think
think
it
so,
all
yeah.
combines to you? Yeah.
I think so, because you learn a lot, don't you, growing up? I mean, everybody.
Yeah.
And if you don't take things on when you're growing up, then it's wrong. You know, you should do, shouldn't you? And you should, what would and how did I do that? Or yeah. So I think so. I think it helped. Playing with good players helps, doesn't it?
It
When
does. Yeah, it does.
you know, so if you're lucky enough to play with good players, and we had a decent team at Fairfield, um, that you know did well. Not
Yeah.
not like world beaters as such, but good enough to win most games.
Solid. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 And at most levels, if you get 3 or 4 decent players, you're doing okay.
You've got a
If
good
you get
chance, mate, you have.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you get 8 good players,
Even
happy
better.
days almost, aren't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, we were probably somewhere around there. So yeah, it was nice. It was nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good stuff there. No complaints really.
What
Tough.
type of standoff was it? How did you find it? Like telling people what you want to do? Was communication something you already had in the locker, George, or did you have to learn
Yeah, I
that?
think no, I think so. I think it's how you treat people, isn't it? You know, and you cajole them along, or if you can do something and you're asking someone else to do it, then they think, well, hang on, he's okay, he's not bad, he's a decent player. He's not asking us to run through brick walls and you know that kind of thing. You hear these old cliches all the time, don't you? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think, and you're there for the common aim, aren't you? And the common
Yeah,
aim
mate. Yeah.
is to win a game.
Yeah.
Now, not every game. I've said this many times. A number of good games I've played in, some of the best games I've played in, we've lost. Where you come off the
Yeah.
pitch and you think, oh, God, we've been beaten. But you know what? It's better than 70-0, isn't it? For both
Yeah.
sides. I mean, there was a result last year, wasn't there? Was it Blackburn 190?
No, mate. Yeah. There's been a
Kirby
few blowouts.
Lonsdale nil
Like,
or something?
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
know.
come on. Who enjoyed that? You know,
No. But
nobody.
there's a big lack of respect there for me, isn't there? Not only from both captains. I imagine one of them didn't want to do it. I
No.
imagine whoever got beat wanted to do it. And then really the referee, like no disrespect to him, but he needs to step in and go, enough's enough,
Yeah.
doesn't he? And
Enough's enough. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he
Because,
does.
you know, when later on, you're trying to get lads to play the game, aren't you? You know,
You've just finished 15 lads off there, haven't you?
well,
Yeah,
you have,
yeah.
and the only person that might have got pleasured out of that, and we've gone on the side here, is someone who was making a debut for Blackburn and scored,
Yeah.
and he'd think, oh, you know, I've made my debut and I've scored.
Or maybe someone broke a record or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's inevitable in that scoreline, isn't it? Yeah.
meaningless. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was So yeah, and I think I've got to mention Ray French, who came to Fairfield and changed the whole complex of rugby, and he decided that we used to play Fishing Moor and Bankfield Rugby League,
Right.
home and away,
Yeah.
4 games.
Just rugby league, George. Yeah.
Just rugby league then, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now, Ray then came, and to be fair, he had about a couple of years above us. He had a really good side that were leaving the school and going, if you like, into the 5th year because they've just changed the raising the school leaving age. So these lads weren't going to play. And he had a
Yeah.
really, really good side. And so he converted us all to rugby union. We still played the odd game of rugby league, but it was all rugby union, which meant that you played every Saturday and some Wednesdays. And that, when you're young and you want to play rugby, don't you?
Of course you do, yeah.
When you get to someone like me where you can't, and that soon comes round. You know, when you're 16 and you think you've been
invincible.
Being retired, it doesn't even think. So we suddenly went to two Saturdays and Sundays, and then the other local schools did the same thing. They went to rugby union. So, and I've said this and written this, and Ray's a good friend of mine. I used to call him Mr. French till I was he did a lot for Widnes Rugby Union Club by converting people into it. And I've written that, and I've said it many times. The town of Widnes Rugby Union, or Widnes, should be grateful to Ray for doing what he did. Now,
he's trying to give us a stuffing with the rivals, isn't he?
yeah. But last time he's not so good at the moment, but nevertheless, he's unlikely to. But if you do see this, Ray, hello. But we did a video some years ago for Centenary, I think, me and Charlie Morris, and who my sister's married to, by the way, for those who don't know. You could feel and sense the warmth he'd got for Widnes and for Fairfield. You know, how we felt about it within the video. You could just feel it. And myself and Charlie interviewed him, and and a good man, and did some favours. When you see Wade Deacon were the founders of the Wids, weren't they? But then the secondary schools just took over. You know, you name the lads who came from Fishermore, from Bankfield to Fairfield to take over, and I picked about 100 lads. I picked teams once, about 6 teams just off the top of my head of lads I knew that went to Fairfield around my era that played there. And that's massive, and that's what it was like, and that's all thanks to Ray. So nice man, good man.
I don't know how many people would know that, you know.
Well, it's there, and that's the truth. I mean, people would challenge most things you say, but that's what happened. And
it's powerful that though, George, isn't it?
It is powerful. And I was grateful, as along with many others, because without being rude, you were playing Fishermore a couple of times a year, and they had a good side. You know, people like Reg Bowden and Keith Elwell played in that team. And that was nip and tuck. No doubt someone will find some records saying, "Oh, we beat you more than you beat us," but it was nip and tuck. It wasn't cut and dried.
Competitive, mate. Yeah.
And a lot of respect for that, both teams. I feel now. We never had any trouble. There was never any, and some tough lads playing. But I think that came about from like under 11s. You know, when I wasn't involved, I was playing. The people just, well, he's a good player. From both sides. So. Yeah, and I used to enjoy that. I did. And Bankfield, a few good players, and the same thing, just like 2 games a season. Then suddenly...
It's not enough, mate, is it?
Not enough. No. And then it became every Saturday, and we were playing lots of good sides, which it was like a 5.5-day week school then.
Yeah.
Because Saturday morning, and then you'll have experienced the same thing.
Yeah.
I used to look forward to getting up and play, a game of rugby.
Yeah. Sometimes too, if you were playing for the town as well, isn't it?
Well, that's right. It was. And that came a bit later for me with the Colts, which we'll no doubt get on to. But so it was good times there, and I've always believed that parents have a lot to do with where you go with your life. But school, there's always hopefully one person that helps you along as you go, and certainly
if you're blessed as a couple, isn't there? If you're blessed,
and certainly at schools that time, like Fishermore. In my time, there was like Mike Ryan and Brian McDermott. Mike Finn later was about, who all played rugby. Peter Quinn was the rugby league man. Bankfield had, God blimey, Alf Orton, who sadly passed away, Ray Eapley passed away. All teaching there and all encouraging people to play rugby.
Yeah.
Play rugby. Fairfield obviously had Ray and Cyril Clark. He played on the wing at the Wids. So they were encouraging people to play rugby after. They don't seem to have that now, John.
No, that I can only speak like you are from yours, from mine. I was quite lucky. I had like Mr. Burt, Mr. Button, Mr.
Yeah,
Bolton,
yeah,
all rugby men, really,
yeah,
aren't they?
yeah,
Berkey plays a bit of footy as well. I appreciate that, but mainly rugby men. But I was already well into it anyway, to be honest,
yeah,
mate.
yeah.
So did school open the door to a club for you, mate? Was
Well,
was
it
rugby
opened. I
league
mean,
your
I've
first
told this
sport?
story a few times. What used to happen was that when you got into like 15, 16, fourth, fifth year, whatever it was, the local schools were invited to play the Wids Colts, right?
Okay.
So, and that's what we did. We went and played the Wids
Yeah.
Colts. Then they got you in the clubhouse, told you what there was about, gave us a free membership, which I think was 2 and 6, about 12.5 pence, John. So it was like you could have a drink of orange and water, pint of, and they encouraged you
Just
to
give you
go.
a taster, mate, didn't
Yeah,
they?
and
Yeah.
it was dry in there. You were off the streets.
Yeah.
It was all right. Yeah, it was nice. So they encouraged you to do that. Now you did that with all the local schools. So obviously, some people took that up. I was one of them. Some people didn't, because it's not for everybody, is it?
No,
Um,
not at all. Not
so
at
that's
all.
how I come to be playing at the Wids,
Right.
for that reason, really. And
Okay.
you were encouraged to go by, obviously, those teachers I've just talked about, or
Yeah.
you were encouraged to go because there was a game on. You were playing against the Widnes Colts, who I think at the time were under 18s, I think. I don't know what it is now, but I think it was under
Still a
18.
good gap, isn't it? 2 years
Oh, yeah,
is still a good
yeah,
gap, George.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is, yeah, yeah. But you were encouraged to, like, members of staff would say, and this is what we've got to offer, and this is what we haven't got to offer. So, yeah, that's how it happened for me.
Right.
There wasn't much rugby league going on in the town. Ditton Youth Club had a really good side, um,
Right.
with lots of good players, a lot signed professionally,
Yeah.
which you'd expect. They were a good rugby league side, but I think at the time that's about all there was.
Okay.
In
Yeah.
the mid-60s. I might be wrong, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that's
Yeah.
it. So, and I've said about rugby league that, and again, I'm a season ticket holder. Watched it.
Yeah.
You've only got one option. They've only have one team, don't they?
Yeah.
So if you're not very good and you can't get picked in the first team, and that's why I used to say to people, well, why don't you go the Wids? Well, they poo-poo that, right? Because it's seemed to be whatever kind of game they want it to be. But at least you can play. Because if you're not very good, nothing wrong with being very good, not very good. You can play in the third team. In
Yeah.
my
There's a
day,
place there for you, isn't there? Yeah.
there was like 6 teams, and
Yeah. It's
so
big, that.
if you weren't, here's a game, and I've
Yeah.
watched. I'm like you. I watch rugby league even now, amateur rugby league,
Yeah.
and I don't want to pay to criticise, but they only have one team. So if you're not very good, or you can't get a game,
The
you know,
participation numbers are quite like shocking, really, mate, aren't they?
mm,
Considering how strong the town have been.
yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
that can be seen if you drive down Dundalk Road or Liverpool Road on
Exactly.
a Saturday,
Yeah.
when everybody
There's no
wants to be
rugby posts anymore.
Mo Salah or Harry Kane, and they're all doing
Yeah.
tricks and flicks, and and again, that was something else that Ray French did when he came, banned every other sport but rugby. There was
What a
no,
guy.
well, you can't do it now, of course, but there was no cross country
Yeah.
smoking, where everyone would run off
Yeah.
to smoke a fag and
Yeah.
go for study leave in the park, and
Yeah.
none of that. You played rugby, and it was a bit like, I can see it now. Have you seen the film Kes? With
No.
no, watch it. That's my school life, Kes. The
Right.
PE
Yeah.
teacher and all that goes with it. It was just like that.
You know the front cover though, where he's got the bird on his hand, innit?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
know the front cover.
the little lad, he's no shorts and he can't play footy, and he's thrown this
Yeah.
pair of shorts which are like this big, twice the size of him, and you
Stanley
had to put them
Matthews.
on. Pardon?
Like Stanley Matthews.
Yeah, they were, and you had to put them
Yeah,
on, and
yeah,
you had to play, and there was no. Well, I mean, I never did that. I wanted to play, and I'm not, the lots
yeah,
didn't do, but so Ray just said, right, there's nothing but, and there were lads playing soccer then who he got into the team and were very, very good players. In fact, one of them is in my little team for later.
right.
So I believe they're still out there, John, and that's something I've preached. Just need encouraging, because I
Yeah,
can't
they do.
believe that when I was at school or when you were at school, the water's been turned off and these rugby players aren't there anymore. I think
Yeah,
they're all out there, but they need to be
they are.
coaxed
Just,
and pushed
yeah,
along and not be Mo Salah or Harry Kane. And
yeah. No, that's it, isn't it, mate? Like, there's no better
sorry,
environment than a team environment.
no, sorry for ranting, and
No,
I
no,
do
you're not
believe,
wrong. They're out there, aren't they?
yeah, I do believe that. I don't want to pay to criticise because out and on, it's people do a fantastic job, don't they? West
Yeah,
Bank, I go down there, watch them do but they've just got this one senior team. They need to get more to keep, because they have Sunday morning, that there's hundreds of kids running about there, and comes to 16, there's nowhere for them to go because they haven't got, and that was
yeah,
one of
yeah,
the strengths of the Wids. If like you couldn't get in the first team, the second team, and if you couldn't get in the second team, and so it goes on. So at least you were
yeah,
playing, you were part of the
yeah,
team environment, the club, because that was always a plus and a bonus
yeah.
to the Wids club was the place to be, really.
Still
So
think it is, mate. If I'm honest, you don't get facilities like that in some
no,
like higher
no,
leagues. No.
no. Well, when I then left, well, I played for the Colts. I was playing along with others 2 games a day. Because we played
Yeah,
school in the morning, go home. We generally walk home from Fairfield to
yeah,
change your shorts and then come to the Wids to play there. So you were playing 2 games a day, along with a number of other lads.
yeah,
Never thought twice about it, John. Just played, didn't you? And
yeah. No, you could that you could then, couldn't you, mate? The band
well,
back ability was very
yeah,
active,
you
wasn't
could.
it?
so, so yeah, and then like from the Wids, then the social life. You don't go home really after the match because you couldn't get it back in because it was
Yeah.
full, of people because it was the hub of the town, if you like, or appeared to
It
be to
was,
me
mate. I've heard some stories. Yeah,
as a
it was.
16-year-old. It was,
Yeah,
but yeah, so then I went from Colts to not straight into the first team. I wasn't that good because 5, 6 teams, there's some good players not playing in the first team.
of course there is, mate. Yeah,
So, you might be in the full team and
yeah,
have to work your way up and, you know,
yeah.
and
Still
uh,
fighting standoff, George.
no, I now they'd shoved me to full back out the way. Um,
All right. So,
just
how did you find that?
difficult at first. It's
Yeah,
difficult. Um, I was talking to Peter Glynn. He played for St Helens and Great
yeah,
Britain, and he said that he was playing in the centre and standoff for Saints, and he said they were a full back short, and he volunteered. He said, "I'll play full back. How difficult can it be?" Worst thing he ever did. He said it was
yeah,
a nightmare, and it's a different role. You now take on a different role
yeah.
in your positioning, uh, just general play, what you were doing, and it, it just came. I'm not saying naturally, but over time, it just became easier and better. Um, Made a few blunders on the way, but
As we
that's
all do.
that's how it was. So
Yeah,
I went to partly because there were better standoffs than me. So
right.
I was happy to go there. I wanted to be in the team. I wanted to play. So towards the end, in Colts, that's where I ended up, full back, and basically stayed there. had the odd half a game at standoff for whatever reason, but generally I stayed at fullback. And yeah, some games, I look on some games with pride, where you think there were no subs then. So, like, you had 15 men, you couldn't go off injured. So,
well, you could get injured, just not go off.
oh, you didn't. You didn't. There'd be people shouting, "Get back on here!" Oh, yeah, right away, limp on. So, yeah, just can I bring the crutches on, referee? It's on my leg. So no, there was no subs, and so it was like play and like my last game for the first team. I think it was my last game was against Lee, and I suffered with a bad ankle at school. Anyway, my ankle finally went on me against Lee. I had to go on the wing, hobbling, because she couldn't come off. Because we only had Graham Riley broke his nose in the same game, so he had to stay on. And it was just because she couldn't come off. It was like,
yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
You don't.
Yeah. So how did seeing the game change for you? Because like you've just touched on it, they are two completely different roles.
Yeah.
Is it something you had to learn on the job, George? Like
where
the space is and how to talk to people and that?
You did, and there was, because you were playing most Saturdays as a coach, there was no one to watch, like going to watch the first team and think, oh, look where he is, or look where he stood. And I think, like most things in life, you learn more as you get older, obviously, but about what you see, and you think to yourself, do you know what, television and all that? If television had been around, or these little coaching sessions and that, I would have been a better player, along with many others, by the way, because you couldn't fail to learn from people, right? And the first coach that we really had at the Widnes was Dave Herriman, which was about 1969, I think, something like that. And Dave was a forward, and he appeared wanted to be a coach, and this was just about coming in, And I remember, and we still laugh about it now. He invented this move from like a line out, where it come to the standoff, who'd then turn it back inside to the full back. That was me. That would go crashing towards this back row.
I was going to say, you're open the back row tied in, aren't you?
So I quietly said to him, "No, I did not." I said quietly, "Dave, that's not going to work." Got great respect for Dave, good friend of mine. But what we had there, you see, we had a forward trying to create a backs move.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you can't do that. Not in my opinion, anyway. Because
we just called it Nino, shouldn't he?
Well, so
Nino.
Yeah. So there was nobody where you could. So you just had to learn, like you say, on the job. And hopefully it worked, and hopefully it works for everybody. And then, as coaching came in, which I was like almost the first, I would think, backs coach as such. People started to learn and see what it was all about. And do you, as a fullback, do you stand where the ball is, or do you stand out wide? And there's all kinds of different things that you can think of. Same with any position, isn't it? And if you don't learn when you're doing it,
then found out, George, won't you?
Yeah, you do get found out. Yeah, very quickly. It's a cruel game, isn't it?
Yeah. So, how did you find flicking between both courts?
When you were at school
and that.
Yeah, very difficult. I remember the first game of rugby union we played. We played West Park, right? And we got beat 40-0. And we weren't that bad a side, but we just didn't have a clue, really. I don't even know what position I played, but I remember playing, and it was like a ruck or a maul or whatever. And like, I think we were all stood on the wing. I don't know where we were, but we just got beaten. And probably we only played like 20 minutes each way. I don't know, but it was so difficult to do. But I think because you're from Widnes, and we have this inbuilt ability, because it used to be a rugby town, you soon adapt and you soon learn. The second game, I don't know who we played, but you get better, don't you? And
Yeah.
and I think like the Wids do, have always done. You just play this hybrid game of rugby union, rugby league. You know,
Way of putting it,
and
really. That, yeah,
yeah, it is,
yeah,
and I think we all do that. Certainly, if you, like if you're from Widnes, and people say to me, "Oh,
yeah,
you know, they always kick in rugby union," and I'm thinking, well, we go the length sometimes. You know,
yeah,
people run
yeah,
from the goal line and pass the ball, and I've no doubt it's still happening now. You know, the first
yeah,
team is still doing that, or the second team, you know, were whereas you see some of the, we won't go there, the other senior
yeah.
rugby union, and
No,
it
I
doesn't
know,
go.
mate.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I think it's fairly easy eventually to go between the two. I think lads do it
yeah.
now, don't they? You don't like
You
two or
do,
three of the
mate.
lads do
It's
it, and
yeah,
successfully because I've watched them. You know,
very well. Yeah, yeah,
I've watched them for Halton Hornets. I mean, I was there one day, and Jamie Basin scored 3 tries. You know,
yeah,
and so you can do it. Okay,
yeah,
backs fairly easy, is easier than forwards. There's no question about that. For rugby league, rugby union, um, you basically just run and put the ball down if you can, don't you? In rugby,
yeah.
that's make
Ideally,
yeah, that's making light of it, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
as a back,
yeah.
but you know, as a forward, it's much more intricate.
It's the dark arts, I suppose, isn't it? But I agree with what you're
Yeah,
saying. So I got maybe like some St Helens teams are a bit like that as well, and maybe Wigan, but we tend to get out rugby union, but we'll out rugby union teams by playing rugby league, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. No, it's
So
true.
they'll do
Yeah,
you in the
no,
set piece, won't they? But
yeah,
they
no,
won't outplay us.
no. I used to
Yeah,
when I was coaching, and we'll come back to that, no doubt. I used to say to teams, "Listen, just give us the ball, because all you're doing is winning the ball and kicking it to touch,
yeah,
and and so what? You know, give it and what we'll run it and we'll show you, you know, like
yeah,
that. Now,
yeah.
that's a bit unkind or cruel. That's a bit cruel to people, but
It's factual though, isn't it?
it is factual.
Yeah,
It is factual. And
yeah. Because there's been many a game that's happened when I've played as well. It's like why would you just turn up to a Saturday to put people in a corner and catch and drive?
yeah, well, I'd ban that if I was involved at rugby union. I find that the most non-skillful thing in the world to catch and
Uh,
drive. Just, it's like your man magnets are bigger than our man magnets, so we'll push you out the way. No skill
yeah,
involved in that. For me, no skill at all. I wouldn't,
yeah.
you know. So yeah. Anyway, we've probably drifted off, but yeah, I played for about 5 seasons for the first team and enjoyed it on and off. I wasn't, you know, but and then I damaged an ankle at school, and back in the day, no physios. It was like
Yeah.
doctor 6 weeks off. After 2 weeks, oh, sod this, you know, and you played,
Yeah, we
and
know
then
better, don't we?
yeah, we do, yeah. And then, well, you
Yeah,
want
of
to play rugby, don't you? You know, you don't
course you
want
do. Yeah,
6 weeks and people go, oh, what's up with you and all that rubbish. You don't want it. I didn't want that. And
yeah,
then, as I say, I got injured against Lee. Bob Watson, who was the reporter, described it as an off the ball incident that referee didn't even give a penalty for. So I'll I'll live with that. You know, somebody
yeah,
cruelly took me out of the game. No, and but that opens another opportunity, doesn't it? And
yeah.
I,
How old was you? Sorry, George.
I was 24 then. I was only
Oh,
24.
that's young, that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
very young. Yeah, and to be honest, uh, when in 1970-71, Colin Rigby, big friend of mine, top player, was appointed club captain, and he came and approached me and asked me would I be vice captain. Well, you don't turn that down, do you? You know, and
no,
so. But Colin suffered more injuries than me. We both used to go to the same chiropractor, because I'm struggling with my ankle. He can't walk, Colin, and I captained the side a few times, which was brilliant. And the following season, uh, Colin was knackered, although he did come back and play in the cup. Um, he wasn't going to do the following season, and they felt I wouldn't be fit enough to be captain. And at the time, but then I reflect on it, and even at the time, I think I thought that's true. That I'm going to be not fully fit. I'm going to be limping, and I'm going to be doing this. So I didn't become captain, which I don't feel I don't feel aggrieved about. It was a good decision, I felt at the time, because I wasn't going to be fit. And when I played, I just, it wasn't what it was.
Well, honesty from you though, George, isn't it, at the time?
Well, I think that's all you can be, and I think probably on reflection, Colin and I were like both 21. We were a bit young, I think, and
He's young.
yeah, I think we were a bit young to be. So
key.
Yeah, it was because I never found it difficult. But you're talking to fellas who played county rugby, and I'm 21, saying, "Do this,
well established."
and they're like 30 years of age, and I'm a boy, I'm still on school milk, and oh, I shouldn't have said that. Somebody will say that Maggie, she took the school milk off us.
Yeah.
But suddenly it becomes a political program, and so anyway, I didn't become club captain, which I don't regret. A sensible decision. I wasn't anti it. Like I say, I think at 21, both Colin and I were too young. I mean, Colin was a far better player than I ever was. God blimey, he was a really good player. And so I just meandered along. And then when my final game, I got injured in the 74, about February, March 74. A lad called Alan Jerem was coach for the club, prop forward. If he said today was Thursday, John, today was Thursday, let me tell
Thursday.
You. Yeah, it can be any day you want to know. Lovely man, but tough man. And he came to me one day and said, listen, looks like you're knackered, and would you like to join the coaching staff? Well, I was made up, of course, because I can talk and I felt I knew a bit about rugby. So I did. And he was coach and forwards coach, and I became the backs coach. So that was quite a change for me, because I'm now coaching lads I played with.
Lads it's tricky, isn't it?
I went to school with. I've known them since they were like 11. And so, but I think, again, there's a mutual respect out there with people. And no one ever said to me anyway, you don't know what you're talking about or whatever. Because my idea of coaching was you talk to people, I mean, I used to almost start, and I did say it in 91, 92, but you guys are all better than me, but I think I can improve your game, and what about this? Should we try this? Should we not try it? And that's the way I kind of went about it. I think it worked successfully.
Players don't necessarily make good coaches, though, George.
No, they don't. No. So I think it worked. And I think if you put time and effort and you turn up, because back in the day, and all the Wids players back in the day, the training facilities were rubbish. The mud on that training area was we had literally car headlights for training. There were no floodlights, and the grass wasn't. It's a bit like you see some of the old photos from, the soccer, when there was no grass, grass didn't exist in like November till March. And so that was our training pitch, and you just got covered. But if you turned up and you give your best and I think people appreciate that, and you soon,
they do,
and the clincher is always, if you come along with a little thing that you think might work and it works and we score from it, then I think people are thinking, do you know what? That's not that bad.
So
So I went into coach. I didn't even think about it. I just thought, well, and while I was doing a bit of that, I played a few games for like the Wasps, a third team, because you want to play, really, don't you?
Yeah, you do, mate.
But it was no good. It was a waste of time, really. But you do. So I then helped Alan, and we obviously that was 76. We all know what happened, or any that knows the history of. And I know that Neil described it as being something like Accrington Stanley winning the European Cup. the European Cup. Just but a team like and I know a lot of people will go, here we go again, but what people have to remember or think about is that this was the first time they'd done it. Right?
Yeah.
This was the first time they'd beaten a lot of big clubs, not ragtag and bobtail, a lot of big clubs that wouldn't give us a fixture normally, wouldn't give us the time of day. And we got this team, and it was a team, and friends for life. And we won this cup.
Oh, yeah,
now,
yeah.
No other team with a Widnes. Now it's all changed, but no other team in the county at Widnes's level have ever done that.
Yeah.
The only other team
we will never do it. Yeah.
Is the Widnes team in 91, 92, I think. But we'll talk about that later. So you have to think about how good that was. What a feather in the cap for the club that was for those lads. And big shout out to him. Big shout out to him. Because I know a lot of people talk about Fyle in the semi. Before that, we beat Orrell 4-3, who were like one of the top dogs, right? And I'll give a shout out for a guy I call my captain, Peter Barrow. He scored the try, 4-3. Now, depends what time on a Saturday you speak to him. It might have been 75 yards or 75 millimeters. So I'll let you decide. Peter played prop, and but he scored the winning try. Orrell 4-3, and then the famous Fyle game where Bill Beaumont played against us, and look, there's a number of stories, and what a lovely man he is, Bill. And he travelled back from playing an international match on the Saturday, for those who don't know, at Twickenham to play against the Wids at Orrell in the semi-final Lancashire Cup. And I saw him last season with Graham Riley. We went to watch Sedgley Park against Fyle, and he was there. And the first thing he ever says when you see him, "Oh, I remember that semi-final against Widnes," he said, and all that. And he's so generous with his praise, And he actually said, now, if I misquote him, that the back row on that day, which was Kev Sanderson, Colin Rigby, and Alan Forshaw, was magnificent. It was as good a back row as he's played in all his career. Now, here we're talking about a captain of the British Lions, and you think, wow, and I recall going to Fyle after we'd beaten Orrell, and I went with Dave Herriman on a spying mission, Now, I used to go thinking, the lads will be thinking, do you know what? Someone's looking after us, they go in and, and so on. And I'm not saying I knew what was going on, John. I was 25, but we used to go. And I remember walking into the gate at Fyle, and this chap who knew Dave Herriman said, "Oh, Widnes are here on the reflective glory, are they?" Because we were playing them in the semi, you see. I just walked up to him and I thought, you need to be very, very careful, my friend. We have got a very good side. And I walked off. I'd love to have met him, after we'd beaten them.
Yeah, just to see what,
Yeah, not to gloat, probably would have done, but you got to be careful, and what saddened me, he didn't appreciate how good we were. And people did then when we
I don't think many people do, did he?
No, and I understand that, but within that team, something happened that John Davison joined us, right? And he was a former goalkeeper for either Oxford or Cambridge Blue, right, as a goalkeeper. And he joined us. Suddenly, we're getting line-out ball, John.
Yeah,
Never had it before. Never had it before. Right. So
this is pre-lifting and that, mate, in it, for just viewers and listeners. Yeah.
And he used to climb forever. So where we'd get, say, 25, 30% of the ball, wow, manana, we're up 45, 50%, Then we've got the ball, they can't score. All these cliches. And he was only with us for about 6 months, John. But he made a massive difference to the team. And the back row was, again, another Bill Beaumont story. He said we used to have this line-out move where he'd tap it down to me and I'd peel round the back. And he did it. He did it this day, and Kev Sanderson was waiting for him, grabbed him by the collar and the shorts, and dumped him on the ground. Right, and Bill said, Charlie Morris, I think, said to him. So then what happened, Bill? He said, we went to Plan B. We stopped doing it.
Yeah.
But that's how it was, and we had a really, really good side, which did what it did, won the Lancashire Cup. Yeah. And sadly, I don't think that team played together again because John left.
It is a shame that. Yeah.
And John left the club in the summer. He went to I think I get this wrong. Forgive me, John. I think he went to Moseley, right?
Right.
And he actually played in the county championship final against Lancashire for Birmingham, Gloucester, somewhere like that, the Midlands, And Des Seabrook, who was the coach of Lancashire and Orrell, top man, top coach, nice fella.
Yes.
He said after the game, Lancashire won. The best player on the field was from Lancashire. And it was John.
Yeah.
So he just.
Would they have just picked him because he was playing in that area rather than where he was born?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that, isn't it?
Yeah. So he played for them. But he was just an athlete, and he could climb and get the ball and, didn't shirk his duties elsewhere, Yeah. So he just tipped it that way because we had good players, but he did. So, yeah, it means 91, 92, which we'll talk about, means a lot to me, but 76 means even more because lots of things. It was the first time I played with a lot of these players and I went to school with a lot of them. So I was very, very close to them in that respect.
That's an old mate, innit? Yeah.
And so, so yeah. And then...
do you know when, sorry to interrupt, mate, do you know when you go into them places like Orrell because we know how good they was, Fylde because we know how good they was and still are, and because of the prestige that them clubs get, I imagine motivation was never a problem.
No, motivation, because the only way you could play them was by the Lancashire Cup draw. They wouldn't give you a fixture. They certainly wouldn't come to Widnes. And it was like, but Widnes, I'm not saying from then, but I built this reputation amongst the county. I know Neil told the story about that lad with Graham Riley, never beaten him in 30 years. Now, not only does that mean that lad hasn't beaten, that team hasn't beaten him.
Hasn't, because he was forever around, wasn't he?
Yeah, with Graham in it, right? And Mark Downs from Lee gave a talk on one of the videos, and he said he'd never beat Widnes in 30 years. Of trying. And people are like, they've got a great reputation out there, Widnes. And I think just a bit of motivation. And we wanted, when I was playing and we went to different places, we wanted the county players to be playing. We wanted the England players to be playing because you could pit your wits against them, couldn't you?
Yeah. No excuses then either.
No, and you could come off and say, wow, see why he plays for England, or, you wanted them to be playing. And I've discussed this with like Graham Riley and so on at length. Nowadays, sadly, the system doesn't allow you to play against these players. Matty and Andy Riley both play for Sesley Park. They don't play against internationals anymore because the system means unless you're playing in the Premiership, you don't play against internationals. Now,
really? Yeah. If you do, it's rare, isn't it?
Very, very rare, yeah. Now, I'm not going to say we used to play against them every week, but certainly, I mean, when we beat West Park in that final, they had 3 county players in the team. We didn't have one, but they did. So that's the quality of the people you were playing against. Fylde had the
internationals. There was a big buy-in then as well, George. Where they're like, I don't think the clubs. There was a big buy-in then. I don't think the clubs have that now. Unfortunately, they don't respect it, do they?
No, they don't. And I feel sorry. I feel sorry for the lads now. I can, and lads around my time who've played longer than I did. But I played against quite a number of internationals and county players, and no doubt there'll be a question at the end about people and which I'll talk about. Yeah, so I'm quite pleased about that. I can say do you know what? I played against him. Now, with respect now to the lads, they can't say that because the system doesn't allow you to.
Yeah, it's brilliant to be able to say it though.
Oh, absolutely. And I think
Yeah,
people should pat themselves on the back from that era, you know. And so anyway, that's you know that's so that's how I got into coaching. And then at the end of
Did you
that
see
season,
yourself coaching though, George?
no, I
No.
didn't give it a thought because we didn't have coaches, as I said. Dave Berryman,
Yeah.
69, 70, and then Alan retired and he took on the scrummaging and the forward. I suppose one door opens, another one closes. You know, Alan came and asked me. I thought, you know, what does a coach do? Because we didn't have one, you know.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. No, that's it. That if it's never been there, you don't think of it, do you?
No. And so, and a lot of it was ad lib. I'm good at that. And a lot of it was off the cuff and watch a bit closer than you've watched before and think, you can try that. If it doesn't work, it don't work.
Or do it. Yeah.
We got our 3 or 4, you know, hands and tap such like and what, and that was just help a bit of footballing ability against other people's footballing, and it just helps, and that's carried on, you know, obviously for a number of reasons. I don't go now, but even when there were still these moves happening and people were scoring from them or better than.
That's why they're still around, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know,
because they work.
They'll be bastardized. People will have improved them and changed them and that.
Twinged them. Yeah.
So I get that. But the basic is still there. The basic is still
there.
It is. Which is nice. And so at the end of that season, Alan decided he couldn't really give the time that he wanted to. Or so the club came and asked me, would I be the coach of the club? Wow. Yeah. You know.
There's some commitment though, George, isn't it?
It is some commitment, but
yeah.
Well, you want it, all these old cliches. If you can't play a coach, so I was still involved, you know, and and so I was the coach when we went to Northampton for the John Player Cup, which is a nice little. I often think about that, you know. I'd love to have played them at home because I'm confident we'd have beaten them at home, but we didn't. And again, people have the Jack O'Page story, you know, he played scrum half for England and he played against us that day.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of the score, 25, 10 or 12 or something like that. But we give a damn good account of ourselves, you know. And we scored a try from a tap penalty move that had them all standing round, didn't know what to do. And I can see it now, you know. So I was quite proud about that. I was the first. I think on the same day as well, just as I Widnes played in the John Player Cup, Rugby League at Castleford. I think they lost as well. So that's a first for the town, wasn't it? You know.
It's big.
I'm sure that was true. But so we went to Northampton, but sadly, it wasn't breaking up the team, but people were like leaving and
at the end. Yeah.
And people in the 30s were, you know. So it was not a tough time.
The transition, it sounds like, George.
Transition, good word. Transition, and younger lads coming in weren't ready, and you know, and we went back to friendly games, you know, which isn't the same because you found that, and when I was playing, we had a fella called Maurice Hunt, right, who was top man, one of the characters of the club, and he used to stand in the corner of the bar, and he was the fixture secretary, and you'd go in on Thursday night, and he'd go, "I've got your fixture," and you think, "Here we go, somewhere in the northeast, you know."
Away,
yeah. Well, that's what used to happen. They never come to us because like we were a small club, you know, small.
Yeah.
Some days. Coach. I didn't know whether we were going north or south. You know, where I was today, and I was the coach. You know, and I recall this story because there's a funny. I think about the snowflakes nowadays. we went to Lydney, Gloucestershire. Again, another one-off fixture, you know. Down we go. And I've said this, there was no subs. Alan Jerem, the coach, and the driver, right? And my one I memory, none of us smoked, which the early 70s was unheard of.
Right. Yeah.
I can always remember that. And we won, and this is I usually, and Tank tells me off of this. Lee McDermott tells me off that. I used to think, now this is boring, this, but I made this try, which turned out to be the winning try for Kev Sanderson. And in the report, I've got it in my phone, and I think about the snowflakes now. Bob Watson, who was the press secretary, and he used to say, "I can be bought smoking," and we used to laugh and joke and say that Andy Ruski used to give him fags to get a mention all the time, and Les Whitfield used to buy him ale, which isn't true, of course. To get a mention all the time, you see. And he used to stand there and go, anyway, put in the paper about me. I made this try. It was Kev Sam, the winning try. And George is a better player than people give him credit for. I just found it so funny.
It's like Steve Clark. Steve Clark can be bought.
But I just thought, God, thanks, Bob. You know, the only mention you've probably given me, and you slapped me down. It's a
backhanded compliment.
Yeah. But so we used to do that regularly. Go off to bloody far and distant places, and you know, we never got. I mean, we went to South Wales. I say to Neil when we start, you know, and we'll have a little bit of a wind up, you know, and he'll say, we went to Mold or Rill, and I said, whoa, stop. You've been to proper Wales.
Yeah.
And he'd go, oh, it was tough at, you know, Rail or wherever, you know.
Yeah.
And you go down there, God almighty. Oh, dear me. We went to Maesteg and Ray Hopkins, Chico Hopkins played. He's the best player I played against, right? British Lion, right? Yeah. Second best fullback, second best scrum half in England or Britain, because he went to the Lions with Gareth Edwards, who's the best scrum half, you know, and he was, Maesteg. And when we got there, it was like pulling up at Norton Park, the ground, you know, the old Norton Park. People coming for autograph. Only about 3 on our team could spell. But it's just another world. And there's Ray Hopkins, British Lion, you know, and I, like him and Mike Slemon. Now there was a player, Mike Slemon, British Lion, play against him. Wow, top player. And that's why I say, sadly, it doesn't happen now, where you know, you've got these players who were just
untouchable now, aren't they? Yeah.
And it's a shame. I feel sorry for the lads, but that's the system, and that's the way it works. And you know, Neil often says to me, Dad, life's changing, and it is, but sometimes you're not for the better.
No, that's a fact.
And you know, I get life's changing like this has improved it, but I do anyway. I could bore people about that, but Ray Hopkins, wow, second best scrum half in the country. He went to the Lions with Gareth Edwards. Nobody from England, Ireland's got, you know, just this.
Yeah.
And he's playing against us. Wow. And we just got beat. But there you go. That's and they probably had other players who were, you know, Welsh players. Names. There's a program somewhere, and whose names are. Well, we wanted Ray Hopkins to play, you know, because we talk about it now and go, you know, right, you know, and and so we used to look forward to. Almost all teams had county players, except like Widnes. And you used to look forward to it and think, right, we'll show you what we can do and what we can't do. So but that was so. I then moved on from coaching after about 3 or 4 years of the first team. I thought, this has run its course. You know, time's moving on. Same voice in the changing rooms. Lads moving on. So I kind of took myself a little break. But I got talked into running the under-13s
Right.
Which was a totally different thing to what I'd been used to. Good, some really, really good players, which went on to great things. Because I took them then from the 13s to the Colts,
Oh,
and we
right,
had
yeah.
right through, and we had the new alls, and uh, Beckett, Galloway, David Owain, John Allen, these lads signing professional term, Brian Carver, these top players, that Graham Forshaw, that Trevor Rugby, that went on to captain the club and play for the first team, playing cup winning sides, really top players. Yeah, and Paul Boucher, of course, I must mention him. He's, and I've said this before, on the rugby pitch, watching him play, he probably gave me more pleasure than anybody. He was just very receptive to coach, and he should have moved on, but he didn't. He should have signed professional rugby league, but he didn't. Just a top player, just kick goals, quick.
Don't spoke about now. Some of them names, mate, aren't they? And so they should be. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of them went on to 91, 92, playing that cup winning team.
That final,
Yeah.
When did you start seeing the game change, George? From like what you've been used to. When did you start seeing evolution of rugby and noticing it?
I think when I first started playing, you could kick from anywhere on the pitch straight into touch. So my first game for the first team was at Wigan, right? Now, again, you've got to win Old Fogey to know that Wigan, when their pitch was like, they probably had the fire brigade in on the Friday before the game, put water on it, right? Yeah. And again, another little boring story. We've all been to Wigan, upstairs, and before the game, I'm looking out the pitch, thinking, no such thing as psyching yourself up, or it wasn't even heard of, or warm-ups. God, blimey. And I'm stood there thinking, well, I'm here now,
I should have brought me snorkel.
Well, of course, we all run out, cleaned our boots, and first thing, you're in the mud. First foot, you're in the mud. Nearly lost your boots. Anyway, we lost 6-3. It was dreadful. Because you like, as a fullback, I could get the ball, say, on the halfway line, just kick it into touch, right? Line out there. And so they eventually changed that because it was dour. I mean, really dour. Where you could only kick from your 22 on the full, right?
Yeah.
So I think it slowly became, then they started messing with the bloody laws of the game where no one knew what was going on, really. And like, if you could cheat better than the opposition on the floor, or, you'd win.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible word, but you know what I mean? If the dark
you mentioned that before. Pushing the boundaries. Yeah.
And just far enough, and the All Blacks were good at that. And I'm not decrying what they were. They're a top side in my era. And but you see it now in all sports, don't you? Where people just go a bit further than So it started to evolve then, and then the lineouts was just like a free for all. There was no lifting or anything like that. So all of that, it just started evolving then with different rule changes. To try and make it more attractive to people, because it wasn't very attractive. It wasn't very.
Yeah.
The Wids were attractive, and we're going and saying because it was that hybrid game again. Like that Colts team I was just talking about. We go to Wigan and there's Joe Lydon, Andy Platt, Mike Gregory, sadly, who's passed away. All three Great Britain internationals playing for Wigan Colts. So they played a hybrid game of rugby. So there was no point in them catching driving when they had this Super Rugby League.
Well, that's it.
Liverpool St Helens had 3 Colts internationals in the team. So again, Nigel Heslop was one. He played for England Rugby Union and then signed professional. So again, it was that hybrid game of rugby, of rugby league, and
Yeah.
I think just round here, I often think when I used to watch the Wids that if only the referee would just let the game go, who may have been from Devon or Dorset or, let's just see a bit of rugby ref from both sides, but
Yeah.
I pinged you because you're half an inch offside and rubbish like
You know what? It's a good point, that. Sorry to interrupt you, mate, because viewers
no,
and listeners that might not know, different postcodes to a degree see the game and prefer the game in a different manner, don't they?
yeah, yeah,
So that's
yeah,
a good point that you've made. The
yeah,
referees will look for certain things rather than other referees from different areas.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it is about interpretation. I get that. And I noticed, again, we sidetracking, I think, and again, I'm open to criticism, all comments to John, not to me. On that guy, the ref against England, and I know the
Yeah,
pack got destroyed a bit. I think 20 minutes to go.
he did.
He gave penalty after penalty, scrum penalty. I don't think, and I might be wrong here, Wayne Barnes, I don't think he gave a scrum penalty in the final. Now, I've got to
All
say,
right.
I kind of drifted off from it really because it wasn't the
Yeah.
best game of rugby, was it?
No.
And that's what happens with catch and drive when two teams are equal. Just becomes a nothing game, just a nothing
Yeah.
game, and it's catch
Ball
and
stays
drive.
in the middle of the field, doesn't it?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I would do away with that. That's one for the administrators. I've got a couple
Yeah.
more that I do away with, but
Same with that caterpillar thing. I don't like that, mate.
no rubbish. I agree. As
Yeah.
soon as that scrum half touches the ball, it's in play for me.
It's out. Yeah, yeah.
And again, back in the day at the Wids, I used to say that to refs, and there's another one. Not straight in the line out, scrum down, feed the ball. What's the difference? I
Yeah.
mean, I just don't
I
get that.
know. The
We've
putting
gone
never used to be like that though, George, did it?
no,
The putting
and
was a
no.
battle, wasn't it?
Well, again, when I
Yeah.
when I when I played, and we had a hooker called Alan Evans, and he's not so good, Alan, but because he's in his 80s, but
Yeah.
he if we won 40-0, he wouldn't care. His only interest was how many he took against the head.
Yeah.
That was all. And he'd been in the changing room saying, "Oh, that was a good win, wasn't it? We played really well. I got 5 against the head. You all, no, we just beating,
Yeah.
just beating
Yeah.
the barbarians. It was
Yeah.
interesting. But you could do that back in the day because it was an even
It
scrum.
was it was a fair goal, yeah.
And he was a good hooker, a good striker.
Yeah.
But now, well, if you see one against head, they blow up and scrum down again, don't they? But
Yeah.
anyway, that's an aside. We're not on about that in general. So the Colts team, I mentioned them. I enjoyed them. Some good lads, some good players that came through, worked hard, and we had good times. We had good times.
Yeah.
A number played for Lancashire from there. Derek Long, he came along, and Ray Galloway was the one. I should mention him. I don't know why he never mentioned me, but no, all good people.
Yeah.
Brian Carver, top player he was, Brian. Really, and what he did, and which should be, commended, excuse me, like called Tony Roberts, played for England schoolboys from Bankfield Secondary School.
Yeah.
Now, for them to get past the grammar schools and the bloody special, fee-paying schools,
Hard in schools and that. Yeah.
had to be good players. Had to be good
Yeah.
players, and they were. And I commend them, they were. Yeah,
Do you know,
boarding
without
school.
coaching that team, George, do you think you'd have went back to coach the first team? Or because you'd got that bond with them lads and they were progressing at that speed?
Well, they were progressing, and once the Colts finished, which I think was about 81, 82, maybe
Yeah.
bit later, that was me done then. I was,
Right.
I thought, right, I've had enough. 2, 3, 4, 5 times, nights a week. Let's have a break. And then I got a call to come and help what turned out to be the 1980 odd team, right? Which won the cup. Should have won it 2 years running. We're an outstanding team, Newall, Kev Newall. Again, some of those, Jed Rafferty, Jed Connor, top players. These. I mean, we were unbeaten till Christmas on one season. Then we went and won the cup, beating again Fylde and Setley Parks and Waterloos and these kind of teams. An outstanding team, some outstanding players. Graham Forshaw was playing, Biffa Smith, John Whitty. And I know I've missed some out, and I'll get shouted at, but that's that's what they were. I think we beat Orrell in the final, and our critics would say, well, it was only Orrell. They weren't hot. But, and give Des Seabrook his due, and he came into changing room after the match and said, don't worry about this second team thing. We've got a squad of 40, right? And that's the best team we could pick out 40. And you've beaten us fair and square. Thank you very much and goodbye, And not like that, but and I thought, well, thanks for that, Des. You've come in the changing room after the match to say well done. And people will still criticise it and say, well, they didn't have him playing, didn't have him.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
Let's look at the old scoreboard, And then the following season, and we're in North One here, we're in the top league. This was before we went professional. Don't get me talking about that. We had another good side, and we improved and we got to the final, and we made a big mistake, really, two big mistakes. We lost Jed Connor, who's a top player. He played centre to Mike Slemon, and I've told him my views on Mike Slemon, which made Jed Connor a top player. And then we lost him, did his shoulder a few weeks before. And then the week before the final against Vale of Lune, two players got injured, two key players who probably we shouldn't have picked, but we did. And I'm not saying they cost us a game, but they were key, good players that we needed. And it didn't work.
It
just didn't work. And we should have won. And Paul Bruchier, they scored in the corner, and Paul Bruchier to this day says they were in touch. It was on his wing, Now I was nowhere to be seen. I was 75 yards away on the other halfway line, but he claims that, and
It's where I'd have been if I was playing.
Well, I could only just get one side of the rail. But anyway, but it's not sour grapes.
Yeah.
We were, on the day, and perhaps if we'd have played two fitter players, we might have won, but we didn't. But they deserved to win because that was an outstanding team that era. Those 2-3 years, an outstanding team with some really good players. Jed Rafferty. It just was. So I ended up coaching them, helping them. But again, I used to adopt the system. I wasn't better than Jed Connor or Jed Rafferty. Good blimey, Jed Rafferty was played for Sale when they were, a top side, and Jed Connor just said, imagine me going to Jed Connor and saying, I want you to do this, Jed. And he'd go, well, hang on, I played with Mike Slemon for 5 years. One of the best wingers, one of the best wingers in the world. But it wasn't. I was never like that. It was, let's talk about this. Let's see what we can do better. Do you need to come a yard closer, or that kind of conversation?
Or a yard further away. Yeah, you're just fine tuning, George. That's all
whatever,
it is.
That's all. And then, and if it didn't work, you'd look at you from the pitch and go, like that. So you know that Thursday night you're going to get a shaft in or something. No, but it wasn't like that. But and you're only doing it. The coach, as I was then, he's doing it for the right reasons. We're not doing it to lose, are we? We're doing it because we think, it would help. And we scored loads of tries with backs moves, loads of tries that people just couldn't. And again, we beat Fylde and Liverpool St Helens and Waterloo, I think. I can't quite remember who, but and that should be remembered by the club. It really should, And I know old fogies like me talk about 76 for the reasons I've explained, but that was a good era that for the club. 91, 92, whatever that was.
And just set a standard, didn't it? Because we all look at the pictures, George, don't we, on the wall and stuff. It just sets a standard, mate.
Yeah. And they were a good side. So after that, a few years after that, I kind of moved on, and that was it, really. Oh, my time's up. I think I think you know. And I was asked back to help with the cult, the under some things or other, but my heart wasn't in it really. I was turning up for the sake of turning up. I wasn't. So I kind of drifted away from it, and that was it really. And that's my legacy, and I'm happy with it. Won a number of sevens competitions, sevens coach, and so on. Loads of stories, loads of memories, loads of nice people, and that's that's all I've got. I've got nothing else now. I've got memories, but I have a chuckle.
Nice ones though, mate, as well, aren't they?
Yeah,
The
they
good
are. I think they
memories.
are. Yeah. And you hope that people at the club now appreciate what people have done to make Widnes so strong. Starting from the people who dug the foundations to be a club there, and then right through my era, the quality of the players, the good players, that produced the results they did. And as I said, 91, 92, we were unbeaten till Christmas, playing top sides. Really
it's unheard of, really, isn't it?
Name sides, and so I hope that when people have a think about, they think about teams like that, and
I think they do. I thought, like, when I was coming through, mate, it was, especially in the cup games, we used to get tucked in, like, the next to the bar where all the pictures are, and just explained a little bit about club history and that, because just because you're amateur, mate, you still got history, still got heritage and pedigree, haven't we?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, of course,
and it shouldn't be forgotten.
Again, back in my day, I think there was something like 50 odd signed professionally. And what used to happen back in my day, it wasn't like the academies where they took half the team from you. They'd come along and cherry pick the better players. But that still allowed you to function. Whereas, if they come along and pick 6, 8, 10 out the first team, you just collapse, wouldn't it? Just collapse. You've no team. Or out the Colts, you've no team. So, and that does nobody any good, because then they discard about 4 of them, don't they, later down the line?
They just took the life out of them, haven't they?
Yeah. Whereas, in the first team, they just come along and like, well, he's a good one, and just cherry pick, the odd 1 or 2. Which leads me on to my other. I bypass this, but professionalism. Banning people for going north.
It was mad that, it's crazy banning like lads that had signed rugby league, isn't it?
Dreadful. I mean, I had lots of good friends. I still have, and I used to play cricket in the summer with them.
Did it bring a lot of hostility, George?
Pardon?
Did it bring a lot of hostility for people like you that still kept in touch and that?
No, I still see it. I got a lot of comments. Mick Adams, God bless him. I used to go out with him on a Friday night for a couple of pints, and we'd end up in a pub, and I said, right, I'm going now, because the disco was on at the Wids. Now, when he went to Australia, we still communicated, and he'd mentioned in his emails, remember them nights you used to leave me, and there was about 4 or 5 rugby league players, to the disco, because there were lots of women there, I think I even got one once, John, an ugly bugger like me. But no, so, but I used to play cricket. I used to play cricket with likes of Tony Corrales and Jimmy Nulty, who I played rugby with. We'd play cricket, and then about 9 o'clock, half a dozen of us who from the Wids, see you lads, and off we went. Just incredible madness. I mean, and Will Carlin summed it up over professionally. He said 57 old farts were on the committee. I think it was 57. Over professionalism. And you could be a professional drug dealer, armed robber, footballer, anything, and you could come in the Wids.
But you couldn't play rugby league.
What's that about, John?
No, mate. How lucky are we that some of them people come back?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But you just, and it didn't affect these old farts any, because they didn't know any rugby league players from down there, from Twickenham, they didn't know any rugby league players.
No.
And dreadful. I mean, I think that was yeah, it hurts a lot of people like I say, I used to, you'd be playing cricket with these lads all day Saturday, and then you'd be saying, "See you, lads." And we used to meet after training and go like the Hillcrest. They'd be training at Wigan or somewhere or whatever, and then I'd be at the Widnes, and we'd have to go to Hillcrest because we couldn't come for a pint in the club. Sad.
It's madness.
I
Yeah.
mean, just incredible, incredible. Um, yeah, it wasn't good, and that was a poor time within the rugby union. That for me, poor time.
Can imagine.
That that but yeah, and yeah, we've now moved on from that, thankfully, and hopefully,
Yeah.
people are able to. And I thought a few weeks ago, Frank Morgan of Wigan, who you probably know, he passed away. And
He did, bless him.
pardon?
He did, bless him, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's sad.
Sorry, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. And we were in the Wigan clubhouse, after for the wake, and Joe Lydon come in, right?
Yeah.
And I actually thought, do you know what, Joe? 20 years ago, you couldn't come in here
Yeah.
because he was a
Imagine.
professional. Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And he played. I just mentioned him. He played for Frank Morgan because Frank was running the Colts when I was running our Colts, and
Right.
he played. And
Yeah.
what's he
It's
done?
sad.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh
He
God!
made something of himself. Yeah. Yeah.
Horrendous, that horrendous, and yeah, it was very, very disappointing part of. I think that I'm glad we've moved on from all
Yeah.
that.
We have, and it's well repaired, George, as well. You like you've said yourself, you can see in the numbers that are hybrid players now. We
Yeah,
keep going back to that hybrid word, but
mm,
that's exactly what they
yeah,
are. They good
yeah,
at both chords and they're happy to flip between the two. So I think we're well
yeah, yeah.
repaired, but still sad, in it?
Well, again, when I was taking the Colts, some played for the Tigers. We
Yeah,
the Wids on Saturday, Colts, and then some played for the Tigers on the Sunday because it was under
that's something.
19s, I think. And
Right.
then if you went over 19, you were banned. You
Yeah,
know, flipping heck, what's
no,
that about?
it is. It's madness. Shooting yourself in the foot, really.
And I'm confident that a few players didn't sign, not only for the Wizard, when think, well, I'm giving all this up, the social side, I'm
Yeah,
giving all this up where there's discourse going on, particularly in the 70s, discourse going
yeah,
on. There were tours, which were like 3 days, 4 days down to Cornwall and then into proper Wales for 3 days.
yeah.
The only thing wrong with them tours was somebody brought a ball, and that made
Interrupted.
yeah, interrupting, 2 hours of hell. And
Yeah.
yeah, but again, I'm glad we did that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant, mate.
You're there to play rugby, and and I'm fine. But,
Yeah.
people are what they are. I've got no
Yeah.
problems with that. So
And just another quick one, mate, is you were heavily involved off the field for a long time as well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
how did you find that?
Um, I'm a giver back, aren't I? I
Yeah,
just naturally want to give back, and I was fortunate to become president, which was a great honour. And I just think, I know I'm not like this, but I'm going to say that I think I was the first, I'll sue myself with the first people, as like president and first lady is to say, to take a project on at the club. And most of the presidents since have done that. And we were in there one night, I think it was a bank holiday, and we were in the lounge and it was dire. I think there was us and two other people in there. And I counted that there were 13 light bulbs out. That's sad, isn't it? It was dingy, dire. The upholstery was crap. So we decided we'd fundraise to sort the lounge out, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't think twice about that. It was just something that needed doing and something that I felt we could do. And you get individuals around, I've got my family, Lynn and Karen, Neil obviously come and helped, Jean, Charlie, Graham Riley, Jenny, all supported you. And off we went, fundraising, doing various things to really put the lounge together. And then subsequently, certainly, I obviously don't know what's gone on lately, but different presidents took on a project and got a carpet in the I think Graham Riley did the carpet in the big room, and other people did whatever.
It's a fireproof ceiling and stuff like that. You bought a tile and stuff, didn't you?
Yeah. So yeah, I just think that's what you did. You've got to give back, and I adopted the principle of, like, I used to say to people, listen, come and change it, come and paint a wall in the changing rooms. That's all, just one wall. And you don't have to be like Leonardo da Vinci, do you? You just paint, it doesn't matter if it goes on the floor, right? Because I'm good at that. And then when you've done one wall, which takes you 10 minutes, I used to say, well, do that one now. God blimey, it'll only take you another 10 minutes. So, a bit of a con in many ways. But, I struggle with people who said, well, I played for this club for 20 years. And I'd go, that's for you.
Yeah.
That's for you. When you went into shit. Now, again, here we go. Back in the day, we just about to think, we were just getting a jersey, shorts and socks. You had to, in the 70s, late 60s. But when you come in the changing room, it's all hung up, and you go out, there's pads on the post. And who does that? Yeah, but I played for 20, and I struggle with that because I'm a giver backer, and
Just in case viewers and listeners didn't know, mate, Sue is the boss of the street house, isn't it? Just so we know where we stand, mate, and so I don't get sued.
It's my great granddaughter, and I've got 3 great grandchildren, so 4 grandchildren, 2 daughters, 1 son,
and then the boss, the wife,
and then John, me.
She's
not listening. She edit that.
All right, I'll take it back.
That out. Yeah. That's the secret between us. No, so it's I just think we should. People take a lot out of the game, don't they?
I think it's nice, mate. As much as the club's been a big part of the street, family life, yous have been a big part of multiple lives. That's a bigger accomplishment than what the Widnes is to use, I'd imagine, mate.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah.
Because whenever we see each other, mate, we have a good laugh, don't we? And that's all come from, thankfully, that one place.
Yeah. Well, as we know, lots of I met Sue there, lots of marriages have taken place, lots of divorces as well. But we won't, but they have, it was a big meeting place. Like I said, the discos were wow, and lots of people met people and hopefully happily married still. A number won't be, because that's just life anyway. But
it's life, mate. Of course it is.
Yeah. And I think, as I've said earlier, without repeating myself, one of the strengths of the place was that they had 6, 7 teams. So if you wanted to get in the club by playing, you got in easier than if you didn't. Yeah. It's almost a blackmail thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, it just makes sense as well, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I do. It's hard. It's tough, but people do it, and that good luck to them.
Yeah.
Good luck to them. Yeah.
Right. So, got a few daft questions for you, G.
Yeah. Look forward to these.
Yeah. Did you have any pre-match superstitions?
The only superstition I had, I didn't care where I went in the line, as long as it was going on the pitch. I was happy with that. That didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
My left boot had to be on properly. I was left-footed,
right?
And if that was okay, I was okay. So
you were good to go.
Yeah, it didn't matter what I put on first or last or whatever. Just I never had a peg, where people must have that. No, just my left boot, and then I was there. When I was captain a few times, I had to learn which was heads and tails. That's another one, John. That the old ones are the best, But
I like that.
Yeah. So I just think,
right.
That was it.
So the toughest player, whether you know him or not, mate, if it's an opposition as well, and the word toughest is different for everybody, George. But the toughest player you played with and against. You might not know the name against, but you might remember the position or the club.
I can tell you some tough I played against. I will answer that question, the first part. There was a fellow up at Orrell called Peter Bayman. He was tough player, back row. And Orrell, excuse me, Orrell. He played for Orrell. And Waterloo had a tough pack. And he was a guy called Jim Siddall, Mal Billingham. I think that was his name, Mal. I think it was Mal. Tough players. Now I'm sure there are others around who were, but and I'm not
They just
accusing.
stand out to you, don't they?
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
accusing these in any way. But then there was things like rucking. You could ruck.
Yeah, I remember the
And,
old-fashioned stuff,
yeah.
mate. Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting they were like that, but in my, from where I was at the back, John, well at the back,
They enjoyed it.
they were tough. They looked tough, man. No, but yeah, and I'm sure, like going down to South Wales, dear me. I mean, I think our biggest second row once was 6'2", and he wouldn't have gotten the scrum half position. So yeah, I'm sure there are many more, but I remember those two being particularly tough. Toughest player, Alan Jerram would be one. Propping. Rugby was another. He was tough. Sandor, Kev Sanderson was another. Didn't take a backward step. Dave Robertson, Ace, he was tough. He's a tough player.
Yeah.
Benny Rudds, who's no longer with us, they were tough players. So, and of course, they stood out, but there'd be people probably even tougher, the quiet ones, that you don't notice or just go on, can look after themselves if anything.
Do the nitty-gritty that gets overlooked. Yeah.
Yeah. Good, but yeah. Yeah. Although it was a tough game, it wasn't a dirty game.
Play properly, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, but like I say, I was where I was. People would say otherwise, but like, people will tell you stories of he kicked me in the back on purpose and stuff like that. Well, yeah, that went on. Even I
still does, of course it does. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, and that's what. Again, I'm going to rant about these referees. I saw that game last Saturday, and if one was a sending off, they were both sendings off. And again, back in the day, for me, they weren't. It was just what they call a rugby collision.
It's just an accident, isn't it?
Yeah, it is what it to me. But things have changed and so on. And I do feel the TMO is the best defender in the world, because anything to try and stop a try for me, them TMOs, I just find it absurd.
They're over involved, I think.
We move on. Yeah. So I'd go with them three.
Yeah. So where was your favourite away ground? Where did you enjoy going to?
Waterloo was always a good ground. Nice. Big pitch. I know you'll have been on it. Big pitch. I think it's just things like a stand, which we weren't used to. There was a big stand there, wasn't there? Typical traditional club where you had to go through the clubhouse, and people would line
like
up.
Birkenhead Park, that, innit?
Yeah, and they would line up, and it was all wooden floors. And the baths, you needed a license, a swimming license to get in it. Do you remember all that? And so
the bath.
Yeah, Chester was another one. We had to get a water wings for Crack Riley, in that bath at Chester, and he was a top player, by the way. Let me tell you, a top man, and
he is.
Yeah, should have moved on, but didn't. But that's anyway, top player. But Chester was another one. I don't know if you played the big stand, big pitch, and again, you used to. I know they've got a new clubhouse now, but again, wooden floors, bath that were changing rooms that, like the Widnes used to be. I mean, now it's bloody awful, but that's what it was like in the 70s. That's all we knew,
That's mate, yeah.
So yeah, I used to enjoy them two grounds for what they were. I think the stand set it off,
It's a nice like you feel like you're playing somewhere without being rude, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
So if you could go back, George, what would you tell a younger you?
I have a motto for full backs, John, I'll have to tell you.
Yeah.
You probably heard it before. That, as the winger flashes in the corner and all your teammates look at you, very simple. If you 14 can't stop him, what chance have I got? You know,
No, that's it. Yeah.
That's my motto. You don't want to hear the replies I get when I come out with that.
Yeah.
I think like most things, you know, like I went to school with Charlie Morris, who married my sister, and blah blah blah, and we could have done better at school, but we didn't. We could have done better at rugby, but we didn't. We just not saying we coasted through because you couldn't coast, could you? You know, no point going on the pitch whether it be the first or 5th team, because or you know do some. So I think we could have done better, but perhaps we were. I'm not making this an excuse. You know, no one was coached. You weren't coached then when I was. So perhaps with a bit of coaching, we could have all been a little bit better. And as I say, it was only like early 70s when people even thought about coaching. But I just think in general, just improve yourself. I think that's what I do. I just say, right, get out and do a bit more. You know, you train when you did, but there's no such thing as a gym. You know, no one went picking up weights. That was like, bloody hell. No warm-ups. You know, there's the joke about, well, I can't do both. I can't warm up and play, you know, but there was no warm-ups. It was just, but they slowly came in, you know. It was just what it was.
The evolution.
Yeah.
So
I do that.
If a microphone ended up in your hand, mate, after you'd had a few, what karaoke song would you give us?
Well, we suddenly, I don't know where this came from, but Sloop John B it would be. And anyone
it's
who...
one of my tour songs, that.
Well, anyone who played or was involved in, again, the 70s and the Cup team, that was our song, the 76 Cup team. We used to sing that. I don't know who brought it in, who didn't bring it in. And whenever we get together, which is now not, we'll all sing that and send it off to Andy Ruski, who was in Australia, who was, you know, he was a top player and good lad. I still email him, still contact him. But yeah, so that would be it. It would have to be Sloop John B.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, mate, isn't it?
Yeah. The Beach Boys.
So you touched on it before and you're willing to, mate, aren't you? So 1 to 15 that you've been involved with while you've been with rugby.
Well, hopefully I've named plenty of 76 team and 91, 92 era because they deserve lots and lots of credit. The team I think I finally settled on. I've gone for Les Whitfield because when I was playing fullback, Les was on the wing. So I can actually say that I played with Les. Right,
taught him everything he knows.
Well, of course, yeah, except getting to the bar. There was a lad. My wingers would be a lad called Jeff Howard, who is in the top, and he was a footballer at Fairfield. That Ray French made everybody play, and he top wing, quick, strong. He would be a winger, certainly within the top 3 or 4 I've seen at the Wids. Paul Boucher would be one of them. Jeff Howard. My centres would be, and I've changed these 10 times. A fella called Fred Hurst, who came from, apologies, Fred, if you're listening, which I doubt, Headingley, I think, Yorkshire county player, centre. He was a really strong, good player, you know, quick. The other centre would be a lad called Dave Moss, and he became captain when I didn't become captain, and you know, and he was a good player. Played at Liverpool again, you know, good player. He invented the no arms tackle, Dave Moss. If he tackled you, they used to have trial games, you know, before the season, you know, into you know, and he tackled me. He tackled me one day, and it was one of them, John, where I'm thinking, don't cry. I'm with my mum. God, he could tackle, I'm telling you. No,
you knew about it.
In you go, right? So I picked him, but there were loads of others. You know, Frank Stead went and played, signed for Salford, top, good player. A fella called Mally Ledbetter. Tony Roberts, Schoolboy International. You know, again, another good player. that I played with. So I could pick, as others could, who longevity. Pick. On the other wing is a chap called Chris Collins, who passed away recently, or a couple of years ago, and he was another Fairfield lad, elusive, quick. Yeah. I didn't play with Paul Boucher, so I can't pick him. Standoff. Oh God, have you got a coin? I've finally settled on Andy Ruski, right? But you know, there were players like Alan Rudge, very good player. Alan Taylor, who's also passed away sadly. He went and signed for Wigan, but he was a really good player. But I've settled on Andy Ruski. Him and my scrum half, young Riley, Graham Riley, they were the kind of players that when they had the ball on the pitch, I felt there were going to be no errors. We had the ball and we were going to, they did the right thing. Now, they'll have made mistakes, of course they have. Who hasn't, but I always felt when the ball was in their hands, we were okay, Yeah. And Andy Ruski was, he was a good player in. But I could have easily put Alan Rudge in. Sorry, Alan. And Graham Riley, well, again, Jimmy Nulty, who signed for Wigan, I played with him, and he was a good player, really good player. A lad called Danny Bridge, a good player. But I'm going to go for Graham. He's a good friend of mine, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pick him for that. And he certainly won't buy me. He'll get me a cup of tea. He could laugh. No, but he had everything. Graham Riley. He was fit as a fiddle. Pass beyond. Yeah. And should have been picked for Lancashire from the Wids, but he wasn't. And there were players getting picked from. They picked a fellow once from Newtonby Willows instead of Graham. It's just ridiculous. I mean, couldn't hold a candle to him. But anyway, that's gone. But Graham Riley, loads of time for him, top man. I'm picking Peter Barrett at prop. Yeah, I call him my captain. And he deserves it for the 75-yard try against Orrell that I mentioned earlier. Or was it 70? Might have been 75 millimetres.
No, you were right first time.
Yeah. Alan Evans, again, a top player, hooker, used to win loads of ball. Used to, if it and Charlie will confirm this to you if you ever ask him. If the game was we were winning comfortably, he'd start a fight. He'd get bored, and he'd just start a fight because we're winning 35-0. I've took 5 against the head and punch. Just incredible. But a top man, a good lad. And then Alan Jerram and Charlie Moore. Because the cup team, Alan was coach as I'll go with Alan. Sorry, Charlie. But my sister will for that. What there is. Second rows, I didn't know Dave Barmer, who was in Stan Myler, who just lives, strangely enough, of where we're living now. Because then you had to win the no lifting scramble. When I was trying to make my way, Stan looked after me. I was only a boy, and he looked just shoulder, general chit. And another bloke, who was a former president, and again, you had to win the ball, and they were good at that. When, like I say, no lifting, every line out goes to the same, doesn't it, and so on. So I'd go with them too. Well, there's people like Benny Robertson, Ray Davenport, other people, but it's got to be 3 of B. Sanderson and 4 Abbey Forshaw. Where, look, I told the story about Bill. They were just complimented each other. Players, Kevin used and Colin and Abbey were like the footballers and would also knock people over, Yeah. So I could pick another 50, and probably another 50. I'm going to settle for them.